Hello, I'm Kendra, and this is Hooked by Happenstance Makes Monday, episode number 36, Reminisce. So, our word of the day is inspired by one of my finished objects, which we will get to momentarily, but first, we shall discuss the word reminisce. So reminisce is a verb, and according to Google, it means to indulge in enjoyable recollection of past events. Simple, very simple, but you are indulging, and it is enjoyable recollections. It started in the early 19th century is when the word came about, and I found this really interesting in looking at its, what do they call it, the engram or whatever, the thing where they analyze books and papers and like word usage over time. This is the only word I have picked as a title so far in 36 episodes whose word usage has gone up and is still continuing to go up since the 19th century. There hasn't really been like a flat period with maybe an up or down. No, it's just been continued to go up. So apparently we are just always looking behind us. More and more and more every single year, I guess. So I guess that we'll begin with what is off my hook. The first notable thing that is off my hook is what I'm wearing. I will put in a clip so that you can see it full scale. Okay, so this is my Reminisce sweater. As you can see, the light gray made it till down here, and then I switched, and I'm happy with how the hand, like the cuff part, kind of matched up with that, and then the back is so good. So good. It's just the right length. Now, I can button these bottom buttons. The ribbing is a little bit tighter than I probably would have picked, but I think it actually might stretch out a little. We'll see. In the future, I might make the ribbing a little wider. But this is the Reminisce sweater. I've been calling it my Reminisce cardigan. I believe it's called sweater though. And the pattern, it is a pattern by Heidi May of the Velvet Acorn, and I love it. Love it. So happy with how this sweater turned out. So this sweater actually began in January. Let Peachlet pick number 15. Peachlet picked this light gray. It was a mill end. And because of that, it does have a few inconsistencies, which I did leave in when I was working with it. So there's a couple of little like weirdnesses in the yarn where like the plies are weird. And interestingly, I think they all turned out on the front. I don't think there's any on the back. And I maybe should have cut those pieces of yarn out. I wasn't sure exactly how this whole cardigan was going to turn out, how much I was going to really like it. I was trying to make that yarn go as far as I could, because I kind of had a feeling it wasn't going to be enough to do the entire cardigan, but I didn't really know what I was going to do when I ran out. I figured I'd worry about that when I got there. So I just used an H hook and a G hook. The ribbing is in a smaller hook size. So that gray yarn got me, as far as it did. Oh, with the little yarn blips. I actually am kind of okay with it. I feel like it's going to make this sweater more wearable for me because it's already been broken in a little. Like, when you have something and it's just too nice and you don't want to be the one to mess it up, so you don't use it because you don't want to be the one to mess it up. Well, it's already been like, not exactly snagged, but like the yarn already has some imperfections in it. So I can just wear the heck out of this thing, wash it a ton, and if it looks used, oh well, it's because I used it. So I'm trying to embrace that idea, and hopefully it stays that way, that I embrace it. One of the features of this cardigan is these built-in fingerless mitts. My thumbs fit through the little holes here, but you can also wear them with your thumbs not in the holes, and I made the thumb holes in such a way and in such size that they really are not a problem if they're on my wrist. You can also roll up these sleeves, like fold the darker part in half, and they fit very nicely as well. But it was funny with the fingerless mitts part today. I was wearing it and I had my thumbs through the holes because I was kind of cold and cuddled up in my chair, and my husband commented on it and he goes, it's funny with the way you made those, it looks like they have fingerless mitts on them. And I said, it's because they do. So I always like when a plan kind of comes out the way you were hoping. So the dark sections here and around the bottom of the sweater and then the bottom ribbing are made out of 3 strands of loops and threads wool-like. And I took 2 of the dark gray and 1 of the purple, and I held them together as if they were one yarn. Those 3 held together turned out to be the same size and weight of yarn as the light gray that was the body of the sweater. So I used those, and I did the bottom first. And so I started, and I just worked it till I felt like the bottom was long enough. And then I put the ribbing on the bottom. I did the ribbing on the sleeves. And then I ended up making the button band wider than it calls for in the pattern. I think I made it like at least twice, I think 3 times as wide as it calls for. But I wanted to tie the color in up here. And I really liked the way it looked, and I also felt like it made it for a nicer size button band with the size buttons that I chose. And I chose these based on not the pattern's recommendation for button size or number of buttons. It actually recommends smaller buttons and like a ton of them. And all that means with my body shape is there's going to be gaps everywhere if you try and button it, and I'm not a fan of that. So I based it off a cardigan, a store-bought cardigan that I have loved. Which actually is a maternity cardigan that I got when I was pregnant with one of my kids. And I've continued to wear it because it's just cut with enough room in the bust, which frequently cardigans are not. Enough room in the bust, and it still covers my butt, which is what I want out of a good all-purpose cardigan. So I have a black cardigan I wear all the time that has those proportions, and I was kind of trying to find a sweater pattern that could match that sort of, and I think I have figured out how to make this pattern basically be that for me, and I'm already like itching to make another one. But I did the size of the buttons and the button placement based on that cardigan. I actually was wearing the cardigan in the store. When I picked the buttons, I like held them up to make sure they were the same size buttons, and then I literally laid that cardigan on this one to mark placement for buttonholes. So that is how all of that has shook out, and like I said, I'm really, really happy with it. The pattern was easy to understand, and I spent most of my time doing this because it was actually my mindless project. Now, the part where you have to pay attention is with the raglan increases and stuff, but even that is pretty mindless if you understand how a raglan sweater goes together. But it definitely, the bottom part where you're just going for body length is super mindless, so I was able to hang out with my family and watch TV shows and stuff and not really pay attention to what I was doing. You know, just go back and forth, and that was about it. And then all of a sudden my yarn ran out. So I had to switch and be creative, and thankfully my creative solution was equally as easy and just as fun. I think I used 4-ish balls of the wool-like. I used a whole ball of each of the grays and the purple, and then the next thing, I didn't have 2 more gray balls, so I was working from both ends of the ball, that and then the purple, and I did not use up everything I had. So I about 4-ish probably, maybe closer to 5 balls of yarn total, but not a crazy amount. And this sweater turned out to be very, very inexpensive because I know I got that wool-like on really good sale. I got these buttons, buy one get one free for the packs. And it took 3 packs of buttons because it came obviously in packs of 2. And then the mill end gray yarn, I want to say I paid less than $4 for the whole bag. So very, very reasonable, much less than I would have spent for a sweater that I liked this much if I were to have bought it, you know, new. And I don't think I would have found anything like this used that was in as good a condition to start with. So I am very happy to start wearing it. The next thing that is off my hook, Peachlet has also picked for me because she's such a good little picker. This week in Let Peachlet Pick number 20, she picked out some like brownish, which is actually called Chocolate Sparkle, Karen Simply Soft Party, which is this brown yarn with this kind of golden sparkle in it. And I had a whole ball and then part of another one that I'd started into. I know I got these on clearance at my Walmart a while ago. I probably spent around $3 or less per ball. And I'd used one of them to begin something, but I don't remember what it was. I think, oh, it might be in my reading shawl. I don't know. Anyways, part of one of them was used. So I ended up with 5 ounces of yarn to start with. And I decided that I would make up a pattern to make some kind of around your necky cowly thing which will ultimately probably be gifted to somebody in my family. We'll see. But I made up the pattern myself. I'm calling this my Celestia Crinkle pattern, the Celestia Crinkle Cowl, because I looked in my Stitch Dictionary, and the main body is worked in the Celestia pattern, which kind of sounds like the name of the person I'm thinking of. And then the edging uses a crinkle stitch, which also kind of matches the person. So it's kind of funny to me, but it, yeah, just kind of silly. And then I did a different kind of edging to make an edging that I was happy with. It was wide enough, but I still had enough yarn for, and that I thought laid nice. So I like it. I think it's very like simple but pretty and still airy. I used a J hook. The yarn called for an H, but I wanted something that was like wider and airier than that. But I'm super happy with how this turned out, and obviously it'll be a good giftable yarn because it's nice and washable, and it was actually worked flat. And here, I think this must be the line. You can hardly even tell where I seamed it. I didn't exactly seam it so much as when I got to the end of my pattern, I just kind of grabbed the stitches that would have naturally been grabbed in the pattern, if that makes any sense. And then the edging I worked in the round. So you can hardly even tell where the gap is. So I'm really happy with my Celestia Crinkle Cowl. Okay, so there are a few things that are still on my hook that I've actually put work into this week. Obviously, the red grad afghan is still working, but I don't think I actually added anything after I filmed the podcast last week. I did make some changes to how I'm going to make it, which I talked about in my Sunday Sunrise. I am no longer making a queen size afghan with the red one. I've changed to making a twin, like an extra long twin-ish. So instead of my 90-95 inches being the width, I'm flipping my stripes, so now they will go the long ways, and they will be the length. So it's going to be 90 or 95 inches long, and then I'm going to go till it's, I think it's like 60-ish, for 148 rows wide. So I have been working on that, but I really haven't picked it up. I've just been like mentally mathing and making decisions on that this week. But I have been working on the other grad afghan, which is my blue grad afghan that needs to be done by June 7th. This is for one of my nephews, and this is the Tides of Change by Franco Randall. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and when I last spoke to you, I was on this black stripe here. And so I've added, basically this is one whole color progression, and I actually added it twice. So I put the whole color progression into the afghan the other day, not paying attention, and as you can see, there's like this, it's kind of a granny style floopy doodle, technical term, and in the floopy doodle, I missed one of the 3 double crochet units of the granny stitch, because I was like half reading the pattern and talking to my kids, and we were about to leave the house, and anyways, I was not being vigilant about reading my pattern, and after I did that round to begin the new part of the pattern, rather than like, I don't know, counting my stitches like I've been so good about in every other like part, because these patterns all like build off of themselves. So as long as you get the first one right in a segment, you can kind of build somewhat without counting every row, but then when you start the next segment, you need to recalibrate and count. I know better, but I didn't. So I put in all of this. I actually got further than this. I had a whole black section in too, and then things weren't adding up, and I was like, what is going on? Then I realized I had made that mistake, and I had to frog an entire day's work out of this, which made me very sad. But I have since put a day's worth of work back into it, so it is back where it had been almost. It's definitely far enough, but I've also put a progress keeper in so that in the future I will know where I was at, so that we can just work from that. So I'm super happy though with how it's turning out. I'm using a K hook and Red Heart Soft in 5 different colors, and it's so pretty and soft, and I think my nephew's gonna love it. So that's fun. And the final thing on my hook, I started last night after I finished my Celestia Crinkle Cowl. It was late, but you know when like a skein of yarn starts talking to you, when it's like, hey you, do this thing. And you're like, no, no, I should go to bed. And it's like, no, no, I have other plans for you. That is what happened with a skein of Bernat Pop in the color Planetary. It has been sitting on my shelf back there forever, and I'd been thinking about this idea. You know, the Bernat Pops have the blocks of color, and so you move from one block to the next, and it makes the color changes for you. Well, I was thinking, what if I worked from the inside and outside of the cake simultaneously, and kind of did it one after the other in stripes from both ends of the cake, so that the colors intermingled, but then we're still changing at the same time. So that is what I did. And when I started this, I didn't know what it was gonna be. So here is what we are starting with. This is an entire skein of Bernat Pop in the color Planetary. It started with, like, the way the cake looked, it had white on the outside, and then, no, went white on the inside, and then blue, green, dark gray, light gray, white. But that is obviously not how it has worked up. So I began using an L hook, and I just kind of went around. My initial thought was that I wanted to make a poncho, right? So I figured out how many stitches I needed, and it does fit. Let me show you. My idea was to make a poncho cowl thing. I didn't know how far I was going to get. I thought I could add other yarn. So let's pull it down the back. There we go. So I made it so it was the right size to fit, like, right where my elbows are and across my bust, and it's comfortable, and I like it. Obviously, there would need to be more built onto it, and I was going to do that. But I started with the L. I did that last night, set it down. Still had my J hook sitting out from my cowl. Not a big deal. Today I come in here, sit down, I'm watching a podcast. I'm not paying attention. I apparently pick up the J hook instead of the L, and I just start working with it. If you can kind of see, it kind of begins to taper just a skoonch, which actually turned out to be, you can see it when I hold it, because here's where the joins are. It goes in just a little, and it's kind of in this green section. It's a few rows in that it starts going up just a little. And I actually kind of like that, and it made it fit better. But then, when I finished this section tonight, I decided what I want to do with it. I've been thinking the whole time I'm working with it. I'm loving how the colors are playing. I'm loving how it's working up. The texture is really neat. It's one of the things I've liked best that I've made with Bernat Pops as far as texture. I like the stitches and stuff. And I'm liking just fine in the J. So I was going to actually just keep, like, maybe decreasing some more and add another yarn, but I don't have anything else that I thought color-wise would really go, and I didn't have any more of the Bernat Pops. So what I decided, though, is I tried it on, and it actually fits awesome as the bottom of a sweater. The L hook is perfect, the section I did, to provide extra room for my hips, which I discovered I apparently need to factor into the pattern, which I did not factor into this cardigan. So it'll be just a little wider around my hips. This will fit around my hips, and then this will kind of be the bottom of the waist. And so I really just need a few more pops, and I'm gonna make myself a sweater. So I need to procure some more pops. I haven't decided if I'm going to try and get more of the Planetary, or if I want to mix it up and use some different colors and just have this be like a crazy, stripey, fun, I don't know. But Kendra's going to play, and the yarn is going to tell me what it wants to be, and pop, I'll have a sweater. So this, I assume, is about a third. I probably need 4, maybe 5 more pops to complete a sweater. So I'm this far on this new creation, and it's just telling me what it wants to be. So I'm gonna lean into that, and it's so fun how that worked up. And again, it's just the inside and outside of the skein, and obviously the inside and outside both started with the white, and so it striped that way, and then they just progressively changed, and then I got to the middle section of the gray, and it kind of striped its way back out. So I don't know. We'll see what this becomes. It'll definitely be something I think fun to follow along with in the coming weeks. I don't know if I'm going to get more yarn, I'm going to look probably for some more yarn tomorrow for that. If I'll keep going on that right now, or if it's going to take a little hiatus. Life's going to get a little busy here the next week or two, and then I'm going out of town again. So, I don't know. We'll see. But that's definitely going to happen, and I'm really excited about it. And like, the more I talk about it, the more excited I am about it. So, maybe it'll happen sooner rather than later. So, that is everything for this week. I hope that you enjoyed seeing my cardigan. I'm so excited. It's so fun to actually finish something that's like big, and for me, and I frequently don't buy yarn with a project in mind. Like, I have a lot of yarn, and I've been trying to use up what I have, well, mostly because it's cheaper that way, and I've been gifted a lot of yarn. I've been trying to use that stuff up. So it causes me to have to be creative a lot of times, which is exciting for me, and I don't know. Sometimes it's a little frustrating, like when you're halfway through a sweater and go, oh no, what am I gonna do? But it is interesting to try and come up with solutions, and sometimes they're really good. Like this had a really, really good solution, the Reminisce sweater, but sometimes, not so much, and then sometimes projects get frogged, but you never know. Anyways, I hope that you all are having a good week and that lots of crafty progress has gone on in your neck of the woods, and I will see you next time. Bye!